Dr. Kir'thep flicked his 3 sets of eyelids in sequence, a nervous habit he'd developed during his residency at the prestigious Galactic Veterinary Academy. The motion rippled across his pale blue skin as he reviewed the day's appointment schedule on his holopad. "Doctor, your 9 o'clock is here," chirped his assistant Meeble, a diminutive Gorth whose gelatinous body quivered with each syllable. "Another day, another species," Kir'thep said with practiced nonchalance. "What is it this time? Another Regelian spine beast? Perhaps a Venusian acid spitter?" Actually, Meeble's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "It's a human." Kir'thep's antennae twitched involuntarily. Humans. The newest and strangest addition to the Galactic Coalition. When Earth had joined just 6 standard months ago, the entire medical community had been thrown into chaos trying to understand their bizarre biology. Imagine a species with only 2 eyes, a single heart, and absolutely no protective exoskeleton whatsoever. Primitives, clearly, but fascinating nonetheless. "Well, humans themselves are hardly cause for concern," Kir'thep said, straightening his medical coat. "I've reviewed their physiology extensively. Fragile creatures, but simple enough to treat." "It's not here for treatment," Meeble clarified, her body turning a sickly yellow with anxiety. "The human brought a pet." Kir'thep's mandibles clicked together in amusement. "A pet? How charming. Earth creatures are mostly harmless from what I've researched. Small furry things that make high-pitched noises. The Universal Interspecies Veterinary Clinic was the first of its kind, a medical facility designed to treat companion animals from across the galaxy. Dr. Kir'thep had personally treated everything from telepathic jellyfish to 6-dimensional quantum hamsters. His reputation as the go-to veterinarian for exotic species was well earned. "I've dealt with the most dangerous companion creatures in the known universe," he reminded Meeble, patting her gelatinous shoulder reassuringly. "Whatever this human has brought, I'm sure it will be a simple matter." As they entered the waiting room, Kir'thep immediately noticed the wide berth other patients were giving to a figure sitting alone in the corner. The human, a specimen with dark fur atop its head and unusually tan skin, was sitting calmly despite the obvious discomfort of everyone around them. Beside the human sat a large container with small holes punched in the sides. Something inside the container growled. The sound was low, rumbling, and caused every evolutionary alarm bell in Kir'thep's brain to start ringing simultaneously. Several nearby clients, a Martian hive mother and her 17 larvae, 2 Andromedids with their prismatic fish, and a sentient cloud with its pet rock, had all moved to the opposite side of the room. "That can't possibly be the pet," Kir'thep whispered to Meeble, who was slowly oozing behind him for protection. "The appointment says," Meeble's voice quavered as she consulted her own holopad, Alex Martinez and Rex. Dr. Kir'thep squared his shoulders. In 15 years of veterinary practice across 17 star systems, he had never once turned away a patient. He wasn't about to start now. "Mr. Martinez?" he called out, his universal translator struggling briefly with the human surname. "I'm Dr. Kir'thep. I'll be seeing you and Rex today." The human stood with a friendly smile that displayed far too many teeth for Kir'thep's comfort. "Thanks, Doc. And it's just Alex. Rex here is a bit cranky after the shuttle ride." On cue, the container emitted another growl, deeper this time, followed by what sounded disturbingly like claws scraping against the container's interior. For the first time in his career, Dr. Kir'thep wondered if he might be in over his head. "Right this way," Dr. Kir'thep gestured toward exam room 3, trying to maintain his professional demeanor as Alex Martinez lifted the carrier with apparent ease. Whatever was inside must have been substantial, judging by the way the human's arm muscles tensed with the effort. The waiting room had fallen silent, all eyes and various sensory appendages, following the human in the mysterious container. A Jupiterian vapor child began to cry softly, its gaseous body condensing with fear. "Sorry about the commotion," Alex said cheerfully, seemingly oblivious to the terror spreading through the waiting area. "Rex gets a little anxious in new environments." "Perfectly understandable," Kir'thep replied automatically, though he was beginning to doubt this was true. Many species experience travel distress. "What exactly is Rex, if I may ask?" Our records only indicate Earth companion animal. Oh, he's a wolf hybrid, Alex answered, as if this explained everything. Dr. Kir'thep nodded sagely while making a mental note to research wolf hybrid at the first opportunity. His universal database of species had expanded significantly since Earth joined the coalition, but he hadn't yet memorized all their fauna. Inside exam room 3, Meeble was already setting up the diagnostic equipment, her gelatinous form jiggling with nervous energy. When Alex set down the carrier, she quickly oozed to the far side of the examination table. So what seems to be the problem with Rex today? Dr. Kir'thep asked, pulling up a fresh medical chart on his holopad. Nothing serious, Alex said, kneeling beside the carrier. He's got this weird growth on his left hind paw. Probably just a cyst, but better safe than sorry, right? Before Dr. Kir'thep could respond, a deep, throaty snarl emanated from the carrier, causing Meeble to lose her form momentarily and splatter against the wall in terror. Now, Rex, Alex said in a soothing tone completely at odds with the primal sound coming from the carrier, be nice to the doctor. He's just going to take a look at your paw. Dr. Kir'thep's antennae flattened against his skull, an instinctive response to danger he hadn't experienced since his wilderness survival training on Betelgeuse IX. Perhaps, he suggested with admirable steadiness, you could tell me a bit more about Rex's medical history while he acclimates to our facility? Alex shrugged. Not much to tell. He's 5 years old, mainly raw diet with some supplements. All his vaccines are up to date. He's got a bit of hip dysplasia on his right side, common in his breed, but otherwise healthy as a horse. Another unfamiliar Earth term, but Dr. Kir'thep was more concerned with the increasingly agitated noises coming from the carrier. Something inside was moving, pushing against the door. The carrier itself, which he now realized was made of reinforced metallic material, actually shifted several centimeters across the floor. Is that normal behavior? He asked, unable to keep the quaver from his voice. Oh, he's just excited to meet you, Alex said with a dismissive wave. Rex loves meeting new people. Well, most new people. Well, some new people. Well, he hasn't actually bitten anyone in weeks. Meeble, who had partially reconstituted herself, promptly liquefied again and slid under the cabinet. From his communication device, Kir'thep's receptionist's log more buzzed through. Doctor, the waiting room clients are asking if they should evacuate. They claim to sense a predator presence. Nonsense, Kir'thep replied, though without much conviction. Humans don't keep predators as pets. That would be, he trailed off as the carrier door rattled violently. Ready to meet him? Alex asked brightly, reaching for the carrier latch. Dr. Kir'thep had never believed in any deities, but in that moment he sent a silent prayer to every cosmic entity he could think of. Time seemed to slow as Alex Martinez's fingers made contact with the carrier latch. Dr. Kir'thep found himself frozen in place, his four hearts pounding in discordant rhythm. Behind him, what remained of Meeble's form had squeezed further under the cabinet, leaving only a small, trembling puddle visible. Here we go, Alex said cheerfully, and swung open the carrier door. What emerged could only be described as a nightmare-given physical form. First came the muzzle, elongated, powerful, filled with teeth that gleamed like daggers under the exam room's lights. Then the eyes, amber, intelligent, and undeniably predatory. The creature unfolded itself from the carrier with fluid grace that belied its size. Standing at full height beside Alex, the wolf hybrid reached the human's hip, its muscled shoulders bunching beneath a coat of thick gray and white fur. This, Dr. Kir'thep said faintly, is a pet. Rex turned toward the sound of his voice, ears swiveling forward with interest. The animal's lips pulled back, revealing more of those terrible teeth, and a deep, rumbling growl filled the small exam room. Rex, Alex admonished gently, manners. The creature's response was to lick its chops with a tongue the size of Dr. Kir'thep's forearm. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Kir'thep managed, backing slowly toward the door. This is clearly an apex predator from your world. We treat companion animals, not what? Alex asked, genuinely puzzled. One hand absently scratched behind Rex's ears, causing the massive beast to lean against the human's leg with apparent contentment. "It's not killing machines," Kir'thep blurted out. Alex's eyebrows shot up. "Killing machines? This big softy?" As if to demonstrate, the human knelt down and buried his face in the creature's neck ruff. The wolf hybrid responded by licking Alex's face with enthusiastic slurps that would have removed the outer dermis layer of most galactic species. "Mr. Martinez," Kir'thep said slowly, trying to make the human understand, "that animal is designed by evolution to hunt and kill. Those teeth, those claws, that musculature, every aspect of its biology screams predator." "Well, yeah," Alex agreed, standing up. "Wolves are apex predators. That's just basic Earth biology. But Rex here is domesticated, well, mostly. His great-grandmother was a timber wolf, but he's mostly Malamute and German Shepherd." Kir'thep struggled to process this information. "You're saying humans deliberately mixed their companion animal DNA with that of a wild predator?" "Sure, designer breeds are super popular." Alex shrugged. "Though honestly, most wolf hybrids are more trouble than they're worth. Rex is an exception. He's a good boy, aren't you?" The beast's tail swung back and forth at this direct address, thumping against the exam table with enough force to make the instruments rattle. "But why?" Kir'thep couldn't wrap his mind around the concept. "Why would you want a predator in your dwelling?" Alex seemed genuinely confused by the question. "For companionship, protection, exercise. I mean, most Earth pets were predators originally. Cats, dogs, ferrets, all hunters by nature. We've just been domesticating them for thousands of years." This statement hit Kir'thep like a physical blow. Thousands of years? Humans have been keeping predators as pets for thousands of years? "Oh sure," Alex nodded casually. "Dogs have been with us for like 30,000 years or something. They helped us hunt, we shared food, and eventually they moved right into our homes. Evolution in action, you know." Dr. Kir'thep did not know. In fact, at that moment he felt he knew nothing at all about the universe or his place in it. His entire understanding of sentient behavior had been upended by the revelation that humans, the gangly, soft-skinned newcomers to the galactic community, but routinely shared their living spaces with creatures designed by nature to rend and tear flesh. So Alex prompted about that growth on his paw? "Right," Dr. Kir'thep said, his professional training finally kicking back in. "The growth. On the paw. Of the pred of Rex." He glanced around the room, noting that Meeble had not yet reconstituted herself from her puddle beneath the cabinet. He was on his own. "Could you perhaps," he suggested delicately, "restrain him while I examine the affected area?" Alex looked amused. "He's not going to bite you, Doc. But sure, I'll hold him steady." Dr. Kir'thep retrieved a pair of examination gloves from a drawer, pulling them on with elaborate slowness to delay the inevitable. He approached the massive canine with the caution of someone approaching a ticking bomb. "Which paw did you say?" "Rear left," Alex replied, kneeling beside Rex and gently lifting the paw in question. Dr. Kir'thep crouched down, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. The wolf hybrid watched him with those unnerving amber eyes, tracking his every move. Up close, the creature was even more terrifying. Its hot breath smelled faintly of meat, and its teeth. Those teeth were clearly designed for one purpose only. "So," Kir'thep said, trying to distract himself with conversation as he gingerly touched the paw, "humans have been domesticating predators for millennia, you say?" "Yep. Dogs were probably the first. They're descended from wolves, actually." "From actual wolves?" Kir'thep paused, glancing between Rex and Alex. "This creature is related to something even more dangerous?" Alex laughed. "Pure wolves are wilder, sure, but they generally avoid humans. Most predators do, honestly. We're kind of the apex predators on Earth when you get down to it." This statement caused Kir'thep to nearly drop the diagnostic scanner he'd just picked up. "I'm sorry, did you say humans are apex predators?" "Well, yeah." Alex scratched Rex behind the ears, causing the massive beast to close its eyes in apparent ecstasy. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we've got endurance in these babies. He wiggled his fingers. Opposable thumbs. Game changers, evolutionarily speaking. Dr. Kir'thep tried to reconcile the friendly human before him with this new, disturbing information. Humans themselves were predators? It explained so much: their forward-facing eyes, their omnivorous diet, their bizarrely aggressive approach to space exploration. With shaking hands, he finally managed to scan the growth on Rex's paw. It appears to be a simple epidermal cyst, he reported, pulling back to a safer distance. Nothing malignant. I can remove it today with a simple procedure if you'd like. Before Alex could answer, the door to the exam room slid open, and Dr. Kir'thep's senior nurse, Glorn, stuck his eye stalks in. Doctor, I great galaxies, what is that? Glorn's eye stalks extended to their full length in alarm, and his chitinous exoskeleton rattled with fear. Rex, startled by the sudden intrusion, leapt to his feet and let out a bark that sounded more like a thunderclap in the small room. Glorn responded by emitting a high-pitched shriek and spraying a defensive cloud of spores that immediately filled the room with a pungent aroma, somewhere between rotten eggs and fermented fruit. It's okay, boy, it's okay, Alex soothed, placing a restraining hand on Rex's collar. The wolf hybrid stopped barking but continued to stare intently at Glorn, who was now plastered against the wall, all 6 of his limbs splayed in terror. This is just Rex, Dr. Kir'thep explained wearily. An Earth companion animal. That's not a companion. Glorn protested. That's a biological weapon with fur. Actually, Alex interjected, he's surprisingly gentle. Rex, sit. To Dr. Kir'thep's amazement, the fearsome creature immediately lowered its hindquarters to the floor, though its gaze remained fixed on Glorn. Good boy, Alex praised, producing a small treat from his pocket. Now lie down. Rex complied, stretching out on the floor with his massive head resting on his paws, looking suddenly far less threatening. See? Alex said proudly. He's very well trained. Fascinating, Dr. Kir'thep murmured, his scientific curiosity beginning to overcome his fear. The creature actually responds to verbal commands. Most dogs do, Alex said, as if this were the most normal thing in the universe. They're pack animals by nature. They understand hierarchy. They see us as their pack leaders. You're saying, Glorn managed, his eye stalks still rigid with fear, that humans have psychologically dominated apex predators into submission? Well, I wouldn't put it quite that way, Alex frowned. It's more of a partnership, really. Mutual respect. As if to demonstrate this mutual respect, Rex rolled onto his back, exposing his belly in what appeared to be a display of vulnerability. His tongue lolled out of the side of his mouth, and his tail thumped rhythmically against the floor. He wants a belly rub, Alex explained. Anyone want to try? He loves meeting new species. Dr. Kir'thep and Glorn exchanged horrified glances. Perhaps Dr. Kir'thep suggested delicately, we should focus on removing that cyst. Dr. Kir'thep had just administered a local anesthetic to Rex's paw when the clinic's emergency alarm began to blare. The wolf hybrid's ears flattened against his skull at the noise, a low growl rumbling in his chest. What's happening? Alex asked, kneeling beside Rex to keep him calm. Emergency protocol, Kir'thep explained, his antennae vibrating with the alarm frequency. Something's triggered our security system. The exam room door slid open as Glorn rushed in, all 6 limbs moving in panicked coordination. Doctor, the Arcturian mood slug in room 5 has escaped its containment field. It's releasing empathic spores throughout the ventilation system. Spores? Alex asked, looking concerned. Are they dangerous? Not to most species, Kir'thep assured him, already moving toward the door. But they can cause extreme emotional responses in certain organisms. Mr. Martinez, please remain here with Rex while we handle this situation. Alex nodded, stroking Rex's fur soothingly as the alarm continued to wail. In the hallway, chaos had erupted. A Venusian sun hopper was weeping luminescent tears while its owner, a normally stoic Andromedian, danced in wild circles. Two Martian larvae were engaged in what appeared to be an impromptu poetry slam, their emotional verses causing the nearby plants to wilt. Kir'thep shouted over the commotion, "Initiate containment protocol Delta. We need to isolate the affected areas." "Already tried, Doctor. The slug has compromised the environmental controls." Before Kir'thep could respond, a blood-curdling scream echoed from the direction of exam room 3, where he had left Alex and Rex. The predator. Glorn gasped. It must be affected by the spores. Kir'thep's 4 hearts seemed to stop simultaneously. An Earth apex predator, driven into an emotional frenzy by alien spores? The potential for disaster was incalculable. Racing back to room 3, he found the door wide open, and the room empty. "Computer," he called out. "Locate the Earth Predator designation Rex." The clinic's AI responded with clinical calm. Subject Rex is currently in Corridor B, moving toward the central atrium. "Initiate lockdown," Kir'thep ordered, sprinting toward the atrium with Glorn close behind. All patients and staff should shelter in place immediately. As they rounded the corner into the spacious central atrium, designed to accommodate patients of all sizes, Kir'thep skidded to a halt. The scene before him was one of pure pandemonium. The mood slug, a glistening purple creature roughly the size of a human fist, was pulsating rapidly on top of the reception desk, releasing clouds of iridescent spores. Patients and staff alike were caught in its empathic field, some laughing hysterically, others consumed by inexplicable rage or sorrow. And in the middle of it all stood Rex, hackles raised, teeth bared in what could only be described as a predator's killing snarl. "Where's the human?" Kir'thep whispered to Glorn. "Unknown," Glorn chittered nervously. "But that creature is clearly affected by the spores. Look at its aggressive posture." Indeed, Rex was now slowly advancing toward the mood slug, each step deliberate, his amber eyes fixed on the pulsating creature. "We have to tranquilize it before it attacks," Kir'thep decided, reaching for the emergency medical kit on the wall. "If it goes into a killing frenzy in this crowd." The mood slug, apparently sensing the approaching predator, began to pulse even more rapidly, its spores taking on a reddish hue. The effect on the room was immediate. Several patients began to howl in distress, while a group of Betelgeusian twins started aggressively reorganizing the furniture. Rex crouched low, muscles tensing beneath his fur. "He's going to pounce." Glorn shrieked. Kir'thep fumbled with the tranquilizer injector, trying to calculate the appropriate dosage for an Earth predator of Rex's size. But before he could even input the parameters, Rex made his move. With startling speed, the wolf hybrid lunged, not at any of the panicking patients, but directly at the air duct above the reception desk. His powerful jaws snapped shut around something small and wriggling that had been hiding in the shadow of the vent. "He's killed the mood slug," Glorn wailed. "That's not the mood slug," a familiar voice called out. Alex Martinez pushed through the crowd, looking remarkably unaffected by the empathic spores. "The mood slug is still on the desk." Kir'thep looked closer at what Rex had captured. A small, rodent-like creature with fluorescent green fur was dangling from the wolf hybrid's jaws, squeaking indignantly. "Great galaxies," Glorn gasped. "That's a Proxima psi rat. They're drawn to empathic disturbances. It must have escaped from someone's carrier during the commotion." As Rex carefully carried his quarry back to Alex, the wolf hybrid's demeanor was not that of a frenzied killer, but of a working animal performing a task. He delivered the PSI rat to Alex's hands with gentle precision. "Good boy, Rex," Alex praised, scratching behind the wolf's ears. "Good tracking." Meanwhile, the mood slug's emissions had begun to dissipate without the PSI rat's psychic amplification. Patients and staff were gradually returning to their normal emotional states, looking confused but largely unharmed. Dr. Kir'thep stared at the human and his pet with new eyes. "I still don't understand." Dr. Kir'thep said, watching as clinic staff administered calming agents to the last few affected patients. How did Rex know to go after the PSI rat? Alex Martinez, seated in Kir'thep's office with Rex lying contentedly at his feet, shrugged. He's trained for scent detection on Earth, search and rescue, primarily. He must have sensed something off about that creature. Dogs can detect things humans can't. So he wasn't affected by the mood slug's empathic spores? Oh, he probably was, Alex said, reaching down to scratch Rex's ears. The massive canine responded with a blissful sigh. But working dogs are trained to stay on task regardless of distractions. That's what makes them so valuable as partners. Partners. The word struck Dr. Kir'thep with sudden clarity. Not pets, not possessions, but partners. You know, he said slowly, in 15 years of veterinary practice, I've never encountered anything quite like the relationship between humans and their companions. It's pretty special, Alex agreed. We've evolved together in a way. Some scientists think humans wouldn't have become the dominant species on Earth without our partnership with dogs. Kir'thep mulled this over, his scientific mind rapidly reassessing everything he thought he knew about interspecies relationships. Most galactic civilizations evolved to avoid predators, he explained. We developed intelligence as a defense mechanism. But humans, Napo. We took a different approach. Alex finished with a smile. If you can't beat 'em, domesticate 'em and give them silly names. As if recognizing he was being discussed, Rex lifted his massive head and yawned, displaying those fearsome teeth that had initially terrified Kir'thep. Now, somehow, they seemed less threatening. A gentle knock at the office door interrupted their conversation. Feeble, fully reconstituted, and only slightly more translucent than usual from residual stress, slid into the room. Doctor, she quivered. The owner of the Proxima PSI rat would like to thank Mr. Martinez and Rex, personally. She pronounced the predator's name with visible effort. Send them in, Kir'thep said. Moments later, a tall Andromedan entered, cradling the now subdued PSI rat in 3 of its tentacles. I cannot express my gratitude adequately, the Andromedan burbled in the liquid tones of its species. Little sparkles here slipped away during the commotion. If your magnificent hunting beast hadn't located him, he might have caused untold psychic damage. Rex was just doing what comes naturally, Alex said modestly, as the wolf hybrid sat up straighter, almost seeming to understand the praise being directed his way. After the Andromedan departed, Kir'thep turned back to Alex. I believe I owe you an apology, Mr. Martinez. I prejudged your companion based on my own limited understanding. No worries, Doc. Rex gets that reaction a lot, even on Earth. But once people get to know him, Alex trailed off as Rex laid his head on the human's knee, gazing up with those intelligent amber eyes. I would like, Kir'thep said carefully, to learn more about Earth companion animals. It seems there is much our galactic community could learn from human-animal relationships. Alex brightened. That would be great. Actually, there's a whole community of humans with pets who've relocated to this sector. We've been looking for a vet who's willing to take us on. Kir'thep felt a momentary surge of panic at the thought of a waiting room full of Earth predators. But then he looked at Rex, truly looked at him, and saw not just the powerful predator, but also the loyal companion, the diligent worker, the affectionate family member. I believe, he said with newfound conviction, the Universal Interspecies Veterinary Clinic would be honored to serve Earth's companion animals, though we may need to make some adaptations to our facilities. 6 months later, the clinic's new Earth Animal Wing opened to much fanfare and considerable nervousness from the non-human staff. Dr. Kir'thep, however, moved confidently among the various Earth predators in the waiting room, a pair of sleek, watchful creatures called cats, that seemed to regard him with thinly veiled contempt, a cage of small, fuzzy ferrets that writhed together in a hypnotic dance, and yes, several variations of dogs, including Rex himself, who was accompanying Alex to the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Dr. Kir'thep, a reporter from Galactic Geographic, asked, aiming a recording device at him. What made you decide to specialize in Earth predators when most practitioners won't go near them? Kir'thep glanced at Alex and Rex, standing proudly by the entrance to the new wing. The wolf hybrid's tail wagged in recognition as their eyes met. I discovered, Dr. Kir'thep said thoughtfully, that sometimes the most frightening things in the universe are actually the most misunderstood. Humans have a saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover." I would add, don't judge a species by its teeth. As the crowd laughed nervously, Meeble sidled up beside him, still maintaining a respectful distance from the Earth animals. "The next appointment is here, Doctor," she informed him. "Something called a tarantula?" Dr. Kir'thep's antennae twitched with interest. "Fascinating. And what sort of creature is that?" Meeble's gelatinous form shuddered slightly. "The human called it a spooter? Apparently it's a type of spider." As Kir'thep watched a human walk in carrying a small terrarium containing what appeared to be a hairy, 8-legged monstrosity, he sighed deeply. Just when he thought he was getting used to Earth creatures. Some lessons, it seemed, would need to be learned all over again.